So welcome everyone. We're happy to have you here to talk about employability in a digital world, learning more about the new Pitney Bowes courses, workforce development courses. And it'll be presented by myself, Lauren Osowski, and my colleague, Robin Morgan, who helped develop these courses. What we're going to talk about today is our 10 direct-to-student online courses. 4 of those were created in 2019, and we have 6 brand new courses that were released just last month. We're going to go through each of those courses, give you a little overview, and then talk about some of the course features and some other resources available from ProLiteracy and our publishing division, New Readers Press. So I'm going to pass things over to my colleague Robin now to tell you more about the courses. Robin?
Everyone, as Lauren said, my name is Robin Morgan, and I want to apologize in advance if my four-legged coworker chimes at any point. I've tried to keep her out of the room, but she can be a little pushy sometimes. I'm going to begin by briefly reviewing the 4 original courses, the 3 student courses and 1 instructor course, but we're going to spend most of our time looking at the new courses, and we've got tons to go over, so I'm just going to dig right in. Lauren, you can go to the next slide. So in course 1, the first course of the originals, setting career goals, our focus was on helping students to reach beyond the jobs that they, their friends, and their family members have settled for in the past because they lack the skills, knowledge, or confidence to do something different. In that course, students learn to distinguish between a job and career. They complete career self-assessments, research careers, and a variety of other related topics. They even create a career plan to help them. Next slide. The next course, Tailoring Your Resume, is on helping students to move from one-size-fits-all generic resumes to resumes that really address employers' specific needs for a particular job. We show students how to stand out in a crowd so that they will be invited for an interview. So in the course Tailoring Your Resume, students learn to customize their resume for specific job postings. They write about their skills and accomplishments, use keywords to make their resume more likely to be accepted by automatic tracking systems. They write a professional summary, learn to describe their work and education history, which is, for all of us, can be one of the toughest parts of the job application. They write a cover letter, and they even learn to use a resume template. Next slide. So the third direct student course that was developed is called Acing the Interview. The theme for Acing the Interview was just practice, practice, and more practice. We want students to think ahead about the kinds of questions they're going to be asked and help them to tailor their answers based on job postings and what they know of the company. So in essence, we want them to demonstrate to employers that they've really taken the time to prepare for the interview, and that they're treating that job as the special position that it is. So in the Acing the Interview course, students research companies where they want to apply for a job. They prepare for in-person. Now this is where goes back to the pre-pandemic days. They prepare for in-person phone and Skype interviews, as well as job fairs, something we don't, that still exist, but maybe we don't see quite as much of these days. They practice responses to common interview questions and handle tackling really difficult questions, learn how to make a good first impression, and learn the importance of following up after a job interview. Next slide, Lauren. So we also developed a course called Communicating at Work. And this course goes beyond helping students just to get a job, but helps them develop the skills they need to keep a job. This course was developed in response with a task force or group of direct providers we worked with, who said that their students, they'd work really hard with them to help them to get a job, but then it was really disappointing to see them not be able to hang on to that job because they lacked some of the basic interpersonal skills and things that they needed to be successful. So in the course, Communicating at Work, students learn the importance of communicating effectively in both speech and in writing. They learn how to identify communication roadblocks and how to use active listening strategies, something we could probably all benefit from. Students also learn how to practice handling constructive feedback, how to communicate as part of a team, tips for talking on the phone, leaving voicemail, writing professional emails, and they learn what nonverbal communication is and why it matters. Next slide. So in addition to the original direct-to-student courses, we also developed an instructor course. The instructor course is called Preparing Adults for the Workplace, and it's a supplemental course for teachers who are using the first 4 direct-to-student courses with their students. It contains an introduction module and then a module on each topic or course with teaching ideas and additional activities for each. The course is absolutely loaded with resources. There are 18 handouts, 15 audio and video examples. There's a discussion board, many links to outside resources, and there are pre and post tests. So the instructor course is where you'll find ideas for learning group activities and homework if you should decide to assign homework, because that's up to you. It's not a how-to course, rather it's a collection of handouts, videos, activities, and links that supplement the course material. So we aren't telling you what to teach, we are just providing resources that you can use in addition to what you know and like to use already. The focus is on areas of perceived learner difficulty. However, the activities you choose will depend on specific learner needs. So for example, we've provided ideas for helping students to master using action verbs in their resume, for staging mock Skype interviews, again, a little pre-pandemic, old school at this point maybe, and outlining goals and objectives. We've also created videos that emphasize the impact of nonverbal communication. So lots of good free resources. There's a lot out there, but we just tried to put some of the very best into one course. Okay, next slide. So now I'd like to shift, and we'll spend the bulk of our time looking at the 6 new courses that were developed in response to pandemic era changes and their impact on the job search. So of these 6 courses, 3 expand on topics addressed in the first student courses. So we're expanding on finding a job online, or expanding with the courses, finding a job online, applying for a job online, and interviewing for a job online. So there may be a little bit of overlap with the original courses, but we've tried to take a little different approach, and we're just emphasizing the increasingly digital world we live in these days. The remaining 3 courses, so I mentioned those 3 courses. We also have 3 more, and the remaining 3 courses, Spreadsheet Basics, Using a Word Processor, and Email, Calendar, and Communication, are designed to help students build the skills they will need in the workplace. And next slide, I guess we're there. Okay. So the first course, called Finding a Job Online, and in this course, job seekers learn how to make a plan and how to use online tools and resources to get a job. There are 4 lessons. Lesson 1 is called Asking the Right Questions. This is where students ask questions such as, what kind of a job am I looking for? What interests me? They're going to use career self-assessments, including Workforce Atlas, which is a ProLiteracy product that Lauren will talk a little bit about later. Lesson 2, preparing for the online search, is where students learn to set up and manage a professional email address. They learn how to manage their social media presence and clean it up if it's needed. And they use a job tracking spreadsheet to organize and track each step of the application process. A lot of the tools that are included in these courses are tools that they can use. So whether it's, if they're not sure what they want to do, or, but they're tools that they can use over and over. They're going to find them useful for different positions. Lesson 3 in finding a job online is called Beginning the Online Search. It introduces job seekers to online job search sites. It tells them what they are, shows them how to use the sites. Featured sites include Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Monster, Glassdoor, and LinkedIn. So just some of the big ones. There's the 4th lesson, and that's getting ready to apply. And that lesson 4 includes topics such as how to use company research to narrow the job search, how to customize a resume using keywords, applicant tracking systems, and writing a cover letter. Next. Okay. So the next course is called Applying for a Job Online. In applying for a job online, job seekers are learning how to collect and organize the materials they're going to need to complete an online job application. There are 5 lessons: preparing to apply, staying organized, breaking it down, completing the application, and following up. So let's take a closer look at the individual lessons. In lesson 1, preparing to apply, we focus on making it easier for job seekers to gather and organize all of the information they're going to need and reduce avoidable errors that could cost them a job. Topics include organizing their education and work history, gathering and saving documents, and preparing their resume and references for each position. Lesson 2, staying organized, is where job seekers learn how to use Google Drive and Google Calendar and use a spreadsheet to track their application process. In lesson 3, breaking it down, the job seekers learn what to expect when completing an online job application. For example, common and difficult application questions. So for felony convictions, why did you leave your previous job? Salary, which is always a tough one. How much money do you want to make or do you need to make? And they also learn how to upload and attach files. The final lesson in applying for a job online, is completing, the 4th lesson in the course is completing the online application. And this lesson focuses on setting up job seekers for success. Topics include tailoring your resume and cover letter, handling technical problems, because no matter how well you prepare, stuff happens, and what to do before hitting send. Just covering all the bases here so that a small thing doesn't end up costing an interview. The final lesson is called Following Up, and as you might guess, it deals with how and when to follow up. We talk about email and phone etiquette, and also what to do when you don't hear back. So, how do you take even the disappointment of not getting a job or not hearing back, but how do you learn from these things, and how do you take it and move forward? And next slide. So the next course is interviewing for a job online. And here we wanted to teach adults how to deal with all of the ins and outs of applying for a job online. In the first lesson, online meeting platforms, we introduced job seekers to setting up and using 3 commonly used online meeting platforms: Zoom, Google Meet, and WebEx. Job seekers learn the importance of planning ahead, including setting up free online meeting platforms accounts so they can practice long before the day of the interview. And they use a job tracking spreadsheet to track each stage of the interview process. In lesson 2, before the interview, we give job seekers the tools they need to prepare for a smooth online interview, even if they've never done it before. So topics are going to include everything from setting up your interview space, being tech ready, and what to do in case of an emergency. What if you're sick the day of the interview? What if something happens? You have to, take one of your kids to the hospital. We want to make sure that we've helped them think through all of these things so that, it's all manageable if something should happen. In lesson 3, during the interview, we cover what learners are going to need to know to be successful. So here's where we tackle subjects like online interview etiquette, nonverbal communication, and even how to look good on a webcam. And there's quite a bit more in all of these. I'm really just hitting on some of the highlights for the lessons. There's we cover quite a few more topics in each lesson than what I'm mentioning. And then in lesson 4, after the interview, we include a post-interview reflection worksheet because we want job seekers to learn, as I mentioned before, we want them to learn from each interview, good or bad. And we also talk about what to include in a thank you note, because after every interview, it should always be a thank you note. So we have a template. We want people to walk through, how to create the thank you note. And next slide. So as I mentioned previously, the second set of courses, there's a second group of courses that go along in these new courses: Spreadsheet Basics, using a word processor, and email, calendar, and communication. And these courses focus more on helping job seekers to build the digital skills they're going to need to find and keep a job. And our focus here really is on building transferable skills. So for example, not all job seekers are going to have access to Microsoft Excel, but anyone can set up a free Google account. So for example, for the Spreadsheet Basics course, we can walk them through creating a Gmail or a Google account if they don't have one already. And then they have access to Google Sheets, and the whole range of, Google products. So our focus in this course really is on using Google Sheets and counting on the fact that whatever job seekers learn or students learn in the course using Google Sheets, they're going to be able to transfer that if they enter an office environment or a work environment where they're using a Microsoft product instead, that may be even a little bit more complex. So this gives them at least the basic skills they need to get started. So hopefully they can build on that once they're there and it comes to them more easily. So in Spreadsheet Basics, job seekers use Google Sheets to learn how to set up a Google account. We're going to teach them basic spreadsheet structure and spreadsheet mechanics. So for example, we are teaching them how to add and delete data, adjust columns and rows, wrap text, add colors, borders, how to use formulas, and then of course, how to share spreadsheets and how to collaborate with coworkers. And they have an opportunity to practice what they learn by completing 2 detailed spreadsheets. So there's a lot of hands-on that goes into this course, a lot of hands-on practice, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later too. We also do include an introduction to Excel with a video, so that if anyone wants to, we tell them, the basics about Excel, but then give them the opportunity to click into a video where if they want to learn even more, they have the opportunity to do so. Next slide. So the next course in the digital workplace tools set is called Using a Word Processor. And in this one, we focused on learning to use Google Docs. So similar thought to the spreadsheet course. How can we give learners a chance to work with the materials, have a hands-on experience, but with a free product? Something that we know that we can get everybody into, so no one is going to be blocked out of the course and not be able to benefit. So in this course, job searchers are using Google Docs to learn what a word processor is and how they are used by businesses and organizations. So topics include, again, setting up a Google account, because we've got to take everyone, for each of the courses, we want to make sure we're not leaving out any steps. We want to make sure we're walking people through everything they need to know in order to be successful with the course. So that starts with setting up a Google account if they haven't done so already. And then we're also going to teach them how to open documents, how to stay organized, and how to create and edit their documents. And this course concludes with an added practice section also, where learners are going to edit a business letter and also edit a flyer. And what we've done is we've created a detailed PDFs. So we have detailed instructions for each one of the activities they're going to be completing. And then they're actually working on, if it's a spreadsheet course, they're working in the workbook, and they're working in the spreadsheet itself, or here they're working with a particular business letter that has some errors or things that they need to change, or editing a flyer, fixing the formatting. And in each case, we've also included locked, finished, completed files so that they have an example of what it's supposed to look like, or if they get confused, they can use that to help them. And next slide, Lauren. So the final course is called Email, Calendar, and Communications. So it doesn't take a lot of imagination to figure out what this one's about. But here we're teaching students about commonly used workplace apps and tools. Email, our focus here is on opening Gmail or Outlook email accounts. So topics here will include everything from logging in, sending and responding to email, formatting, adding and opening attachments, adding an email signature, using auto reply, and searching for things and organizing your inbox. The calendar section, again, focuses on Google and Outlook, so Google Calendar and Outlook Calendar. And here, learners learn how to open their calendar, how to add and delete events, and share calendars. So everything they're going to need to get started, whether it's in their personal life, it'll benefit them, but certainly something that they can take with them into the workplace and then build on their skills. There's so much, there's just so much material, or so many topics we could have covered. So we've picked the basics, started with the basics and the foundational skills that we think people need to help them to be successful, and just give them a platform from which to jump off and feel comfortable and confident as they go into the workplace. The final piece to this course, called Communication, this is focusing on online meeting platforms. The platforms we covered here, the biggies: Zoom, Google Meet, and Cisco WebEx. Of course, there are others out there, but again, what we want to do is just give people get them comfortable with working with these platforms, so that if they want to learn another platform, it's definitely going to be easier for them. And next slide. So the next few slides just highlight some of the features, resources, and information that are included in the courses. All of the courses are mobile friendly, meaning they automatically scale to fit all types of mobile devices. There's no awkward scrolling and spreading and, shrinking your screen so that you can figure out what's there. It all scales nicely to fit. What you see here on your screen is a picture of what a slide looks like on a mobile device. And in this case, it's an iPhone 6. So it was a really tiny little screen, but it is scaled nicely so that you can see everything and it's easy to use. So here, clicking the hamburger menu, the 3 bars on the top right reveals a drop-down resource list. And then slide progress is indicated by the circular progress button. And that's also where students click to start or pause the screen. Basic navigation is the same on all devices. However, students using touchscreen devices also have the option to swipe forward and back to move between screens rather than clicking forward and back arrows or next or previous buttons. Next slide. So the next feature we'll look at is the home page. So every one of the courses has a home page. And each of the buttons you see here takes students to a different lesson. And then when they finish a lesson, then they're prompted to click to return to the home page where they can begin the next lesson. So it's all nice and neatly organized to make navigation as simple as possible. Every course begins with the same lesson called Getting Started. That's always going to be the top button on the home page, and this is where students learn how to move around the course. So the Getting Started section is the same in each of the student courses. So students can, after they've taken a course and once they're comfortable moving around in the course, they can opt to skip that lesson once they've completed the first course. They don't need to go back through those slides over and over again. The first time students take a course, we do recommend taking the lessons in the order they're presented here. So working your way down through the buttons, but it's not required. You can click any button to begin, to revisit a topic. It's really up to you. It's up to the students how they want to proceed. Courses that do include an added practice section can be identified by the larger different color button in the bottom of the home screen. And students can move through the lessons themselves fairly quickly, but the added practice section is going to take some time. That tends to be, a little bit, well, it's just a little bit more complex, or maybe complex isn't the right word, but it's definitely going to take the students some time to get through that. And how much time it takes is really going to depend on the individual student. Okay, and next slide. So the slide you see now demonstrates how students move around the courses. Each of the student courses are narrated by our friend here, Betsy. She's the guide. And then depending on the course, students are going to use forward and back arrows or previous and next buttons to move between the slides. Or as I mentioned earlier, if they're on a touchscreen device, they have the option to swipe between slides. Clicking the house button at the bottom of the screen takes students back to the home page. So it's just a simple one-click way to return to the home page at any time. And you'll notice that anytime the icons at the bottom of the screen, so the house, the printer, the books that you see there, anytime those are in color, they're active. So for example, in this slide, you see the printer is grayed out, meaning there's nothing to print, so that button is not active on this slide. The newer courses, all of the 6 new courses do not have a print button. We took a little bit different route, but for the most part, the navigation and everything has remained very, very similar between the original courses and the courses we just released last month. Let's see, the green books. So clicking on the green books gives students one-click access to all of the handouts. So they can get to every handout, not just what's included on their current slide. So it's just, again, another easy way to get back, find handouts, you know, or go back and find something later without having to click through the slides to get to things. We have highlighted, taken the effort here to create a definitions handout to accompany each of the courses, because you've got specific language that is unique to whatever the course topic is. So any keywords that we thought students might not know or would struggle with, and they're important for them to know, are highlighted in the course in yellow. And all students have to do is click on the highlighted words, and they're going to see a pop-up definition box. And then again, each of those definitions is also included on the definition handout. Next slide. So in the last slide, we just talked about this resource slide. So you learned that when students click on the green books, then they're directed to this resource library. And this is what it looks like. And from here, students can download and read any resource anytime. The majority of these are going to be PDF handouts, unless for some reason it's something where they would need to be able to manipulate the document a little bit more, but mostly PDF handouts. It's worth noting also that the majority of individual lessons are not printer dependent. So for example, if a student's working in the types of interviews lesson, they can complete the entire lesson without the benefit of having access to a printer. They may be directed to a handout, but since we have this page here, they can come back later, they can download, they can read the handout then, come back, download it later, print later without sacrificing the effectiveness of the lesson. So the majority of the lessons, depending on the course, the lessons are really designed so that students, if they're on the go, they're not home sitting at a desk in front of a computer, or sitting in front of where someplace where they have a printer and all these extra resources. They can still take the course, they can still get something out of it. So it's not until students begin the added practice section of the course that printing a specific worksheet really becomes more important. The worksheets include space for all of the activities, in many cases, that they can use as a template for new job searches. Next slide. So in each of the courses, we've really done the best we can to try to make them as interactive as possible, so that students aren't just clicking in here and listening, click and just going through without actually doing anything other than moving forward and back between the screens. So the courses are very interactive. For example, in this slide, students are going to click on the images to learn more about what to look for when researching a company they may want to work for. The pop-up boxes minimize the amount of text appearing on the screen at one time, so it makes it easier for learners to follow along and remember what they learned. Other examples of interactive activities, we've got a lot of clickable buttons. Many audio and video examples. The new courses are particularly loaded with lots of video examples. So we've got a lot of interesting things for students to click on, watch, listen to. We've also got a lot of pop-up slide layers, and then of course the pop-up definitions that I mentioned earlier. So lots of things to do to hopefully help students to stay engaged as they're going through the courses. So Depending on the material that's being presented, the courses are going to include either knowledge check questions or practice activities that allow them to apply what they have learned. So what you see on your screen is an example of a knowledge check question. And the knowledge checks are primarily scenario-based, like what you see here. And scenario-based questions allow learners to access the courses from anywhere. Again, no printers or special handouts required to complete the lessons. And in the case of these scenario-based questions, students can answer as many times as they've needed, and feedback's provided for all of their answers. And the questions really aren't meant to be difficult. They're just meant to test the students' understanding. And then, of course, we want to make sure that they're always going to have the opportunity to experience success. Next slide. So in one of the earlier slides, I mentioned the added practice sections that are included on some of the courses. So the added practice section is where students apply what they've learned about setting goals or creating a resume, acing an interview, creating spreadsheets, and opening and editing documents. The activities reinforce what students learn during the course while giving them the option to prepare for their own job search or interview or build practical skills they'll apply in the workplace. So practical application, there's really no limit to the number of ways you can use the courses. You are not locked into using them just as we presented them or as we supply them to you here. You're really only limited by your imagination. So, for example, you might decide that you want to share the courses with students for whom transportation is a problem, or maybe your program is still gearing back up since COVID and you have some students who are still meeting virtually. You can use these, in the interim while you're waiting, and then use them in the classroom once the students return. You can use the courses as the online component of a blended learning program. And in that case, the courses can be used to supplement in-person learning either before or after classes. They can be used in study circles where students with a common interest, so in this case, it would be employment skills, the students get together as part of a peer-supported study group. So students are taking the online course like these together, and then you have a facilitator helping them to get conversations started, assign activities, and then they offer help as needed. But for the most part, students learn from each other, and that's the beauty of the study circles, also known as learning circles. So you might also opt to use these courses just for additional practice. You can integrate the courses into your lesson plan or assign as homework to reinforce what your students are learning in class. Or you might just want to select some of the activities or grab resources from these courses and use them independently. And you can do that, with the student courses or the instructor course. It's your choice how you want to use the courses, whatever works for you and whatever works for your student. Lauren, how are we doing on time?
We have about 15 minutes or so left, so we want to just run through the handouts real quick on here.
Quick. So Lauren mentioned at the beginning that you will have a copy of the presentation and you'll have the script from this. So I'm not going to show you a lot of the details here, but I would encourage you when you get the presentation to review and look at all these links and things if we don't have time to get through all of them. But better yet, just if you haven't set up your EdNet account, do so and then log in, and that way you can just download the courses. So you're looking at the screenshot here has the pages of one of the handouts. So whenever possible, when we have activities in the courses that build on each other, they're condensed into one PDF document. So that means that students, it's just a little bit easier for them to track and keep track of, you know, and cut down on the amount of paper or cut down on the number of trips to the library to use the printer, that sort of thing. So the example you're looking at is from the course Finding a Job Online. And this is where students are using this multi-page document to ask and answer questions that are going to help them determine what's the best job for them. They use it to decide where they want to work, how much they need to earn, and the skills, and then pull together the skills and education that's needed to do a desired job. And so again, this is another one of the handouts that the students can, you know, for one particular job they think they might be interested in, or a career they're interested in pursuing, they can use this handout, you know, to pull together their thoughts and information to decide if it's right for them. And then, you know, if there's something else that interests them, they can just print another copy. So it's really very much a reusable document, depending on how many positions they're interested in looking into. So let's see. Go to the next slide, Lauren. So in the course Spreadsheet Basics, students follow step-by-step instructions to complete the 2 practice spreadsheets. And then the spreadsheets, along with the locked completed examples, are located in one workbook that is downloaded to the user's Google Drive account. And again, we make sure in each one of these courses, if they need to, you know, use Gmail or they need to set up an email account, we're giving them the tools to that. And here we're making sure that they know how to get to Google Drive, they know what it is, they know how to get to it, and we walk them through how to organize their Google Drive, because it's not particularly helpful. We give them a whole lot of documents and resources and start piling things in, but they don't know how to get back to it. They don't know how to, you know, stay organized. So again, more skills, the basic foundational skills they're going to need, and the skills that are going to help them to be more organized even in the workplace. So things, again, transferability, skills they're going to take with them. So similarly, for the Using a Word Processor course, I mentioned earlier, gives students the chance to edit a business letter and edit a flyer. So when you get your copy of the presentation, you've got clickable links, the previous slide, you've got clickable links here where you can take a look at examples of these documents. But again, I really encourage you, just dive right into the courses, set up your EdNet account, and go in and pull up these courses. They're free. And, you know, you might just as well go direct to the source here. So next slide. I mentioned earlier also that there are a lot of videos included in the new courses. So some are going to be from outside sources. We don't recreate the wheel. If there's some really good stuff out there, we find it, we use it. But other videos were created by ProLiteracy to go with the specific courses and the topics. For example, I found that there really wasn't as much available for working with spreadsheets. So what we did was, for the Spreadsheet Basics course, we created a lot of new video examples that will support each one of the individual slides and exercises the students are doing. So we break in this course, you know, we're breaking it down by topic or by activity, and then providing video examples or shorter video clips to go with that. And then so those video clips are included in the lesson slides, but then what we've done is put that all into one complete video. So when the students get to the added practice section, we have a complete video with timestamps so that they don't have to go unless they want to, they don't have to go back to previous slides for a reminder of how to do something or to get that extra help or information. They can just use that complete video that's included in the added practice. So we just tried to think it through, tried to make it as easy as possible for students, and help them to avoid searching for things or having to go back in the course to find things. And I think that's that. So
Thanks, Robin. So before we move on to some questions, I know we already have some coming in the Q&A. You can go ahead and continue to post those. But I just want to share a couple other free resources and some materials that we have available to support workforce development curriculum at your centers. The first thing I want to share is a platform called Workforce Atlas. This is another completely free product, just like all of the Pitney Bowes courses. Workforce Atlas is a website where students can create a free account and take assessments to learn about what might be good jobs for them. So they take 4 different assessments with their free account. The first is a job interest assessment. They identify what they like to do by rating on a scale with smiley faces. Then there's a job skills assessment. They identify what they do best with a simple ranking system by dragging and dropping sentences into the order that best describes what their skills are. Then there are reading and math assessments. Those assessments only go up to about 7th or 8th grade level maximum, so it is appropriate for lower level students. Once they complete all of the assessments, the system gathers data and gives them a readout of different jobs that might be of interest to them based on those 4 different pieces of information. They can always log back in and view those jobs. There's also additional resources such as the construction jobs infographic that you see. Right now, there's a total of 8 different infographics with career cluster specific information and data about pay and hours and unemployment rates. And we're actually creating 7 new ones that will be posted by next month on the site. There's also a repository of a lot of different jobs, almost 100 different jobs that students can preview at any time. You do not need an account to view the jobs or resources section, only to take the assessments and get specific information for an individual student. Additionally, our publishing division, New Readers Press, has designed a series of products to help integrate work readiness into any existing adult education program. Here's a list of just some of the many resources that they have. The WorkWise curriculum specifically, which helps students work on their soft skills for work. Many of the lessons in there were used in helping to craft the Pitney Bowes workforce lessons. The Job Success Conversations for Work and the Picture Dictionary Workplace Skill Builder are all great tools for English language learners as they prepare for the workplace. So you'll have the links to the New Readers Press website where you can check out any of these materials. Many of them do offer previews on the website, and you can click to find your sales rep, depending on which state you live in. And you can always reach out to them and request a sample copy of any of these materials. All right, so here you have my contact information and Robin's. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. But right now we will jump to those questions that have been coming in. Several questions have come in about the cost of the courses and how they work. So I just want to address those, and then Robin and I will tackle the rest. So these are all free courses that were developed with a series of grants from the Pitney Bowes Foundation, which supports workplace skills, especially in adults. So the courses are completely free. You do not need to be a ProLiteracy member in order to access these courses. You just need to create an Education Network account for free, and then you can access all of the courses directly in Education Network for free. These are online, self-directed courses for students. So there is not an instructor that comes along with these courses. The instructor is our friend Betsy, the character that Robin showed you, who helps guide students through the courses. Let's see, I'm just looking back at any of these other questions. Let's see. All right, so Robin, I'll pass a couple of these questions off to you and let you dive into them a little bit. Can you talk about the level, language level, reading level that is best for students to succeed with these courses?
Sure. So each of the courses is edited by a plain language editor. So overall, the language is kept at about a 4th grade level or below. The obvious exception, though, is that there's some terminology, there's some words that are course and topic specific, where that level might be a little bit higher, but that's why we have the definitions handout and why we have those pop-up definitions. The definitions are kept very short and sweet, so if students are struggling with a word, that should help them. I think I saw someone who was asking about for ESL students. I think that popped up. That's a little bit tougher one. I mean, students, I would say, to be successful here, they are going to need some basic English language skills. Again, I mean, I'd stick with if they can read at or about the 4th grade level, then they should be fine. But in some cases, it may take some additional tutor or teacher support. But, I think that's to be expected anyways. Any of the resources, materials we've got here, they're skills that any student, whether they're ESL or whether they're English speaking, they're going to need in order to navigate, the workplace and or find a job, apply, interview. So that's going to take a little bit of support at times, depending on the student level. I hope that answers your question thoroughly.
Yeah, and I just want to add in, just from some of the feedback we received from the programs who piloted these courses to test them out for us, they found that, especially with English language learners, it depended on 2 variables, their English level, but also their digital skills. So if they were at about a pre-intermediate, intermediate English level and didn't have many digital skills, they could still get through the courses because of their English level. If students had a lower English level, but their digital skills were higher, then they could also get through the courses. It can be challenging to get into Education Network, get to the right place, get to the right course, and get going. Many of the programs found that students were really successful if they worked with their tutor to help get in, or in a facilitated lab setting where there was an instructor available for some technical support, and then students could get through the courses on their own. And that seemed to work pretty well. So kind of balancing those 2 factors of their language skills and their digital skills to help them be successful.
That's a good point about the digital skills, Lauren, because I think what you're going to find is that there are going to be a lot of students who are going to struggle with this transition to an increasingly digital job market. So you may have to do some foundational work just to help people get through and build those skills beforehand, but you'd have to do that anyways, because this is the way almost everything is happening these days. There just aren't that many, get the paper application and go that route. So that's one piece of it. And then that's a great segue to mention that we have a new student portal. So I think I saw this in the chat also, that it can, as Lauren mentioned, it can be a challenge if students are trying to navigate Education Network. So, but in response to that, Todd has put a lot of effort into creating the student portal. So we now have a place that if students, if you can help them get their account set up, when they go in to look for a course, they can go in as a student and they do not have to sort through the 1,000 resources that are there of all kinds for teachers and tutors and program managers. This student portal really simplifies things. So we also have documents, support documents, that maybe, Lauren, we could include as part of the resources when we send things out for this webinar. And we can give you some documents that would, help you get a student set up with their own education network account, and just give you the extra tools and resources so that it makes it easier for them to use this. I know sometimes, it's not as intuitive as we'd like it to be, but it's free and the resources are great, and it really only takes just a little bit of effort to get the students up and running in these courses.
Definitely. We can certainly include those extra resources when we send out the slides and link to the recording. That's a great idea, Robin. One other question that came in was, when students are going through the courses and they get a question wrong, do they get an explanation of the right answer?
They do. So that was, we don't have a lot of like quiz type elements to these. So you've got the two pieces. You've got either in the early courses, you have the scenario-based questions. They can try those as many times as they want to, and there is feedback provided. So if they have a wrong answer, the feedback explains it, but it literally guides them to the right answer. So, our goal is not to trip people up. Our goal is just to help them to learn and to make sure that they experience success. The other piece to this is that, especially with the new courses, just the nature of what we're trying to help people do, it's less, it's less questions, like knowledge types questions, and it's really just about hands-on stuff. That's why we included so many videos, and that's why the handouts that support any of the activities, we try to go into not excessive detail because we don't want it to be too, cumbersome for the learner, but we try to give, pictures and graphics and anything we can that's going to help them through, and then give them examples of what things should look like when they're done, that sort of thing. Are there going to be some students who might need a little bit more support? Absolutely. It really, it's really going to depend on the learner. And as Lauren said, it's going to matter, digital skills are a huge part of this. So, but if nothing else, this is a great opportunity for students to build these skills that they are going to need in the workplace, because there's hardly any place they're going to go anymore where they aren't going to need to be, proficient. So, this is a great jumping off point.
Great, thank you. All right, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or the chat, so I just want to say thank you to everybody for coming. As you go through the materials that we'll send out within the next few days, if you have questions, or as you and your students go through and start to take these courses and poke around, if you have questions that come up or you need some advice or anything, feel free to reach out to me or to Robin. We're always here to help and guide, or jump on a quick Zoom with you or your learner just to get going, or offer any advice that we can. So thank you very much, and we look forward to
one more last minute question that just came in about. Oh
yes, the difference between access level to ProLiteracy member and non-member accounts. So within Education Network, when you create your account and you have your organizational ID that you pay for your ProLiteracy membership, it gives you access to additional resources that free accounts do not get. All of these Pitney Bowes courses and the Workforce Atlas platform are all free for everyone. They are not restricted to members in any way. So they are not some of those resources. There are other resources, though, that we did not discuss today.
Right, like the tutor training would be an example of a resource that is not free.
Correct.
There is a charge for that. But this is a great time to mention to folks, if you are an organizational member, please, please, please share your organizational member number with your staff, your tutors, your volunteers. Anyone who's associated with your organization can take advantage of that, and they can add that number. We're happy to help if they need help with that, but they add that number to their own personal EdNet account, because EdNet, every individual should have their own account, not one account for your whole organization. But each one of those people can add that number, and then they have access to a greater variety of resources. I know there's some confusion, but it's your organizational number is something you want to share. You're not going to be limited in any way. So please feel free to do so.
Absolutely. And also, as an organizational member benefit, you can have a custom login page created for your organization. So feel free to reach out to us if you want more information about that. So thank you all for coming. Reach out if you have any questions at all, and we'll see you at a future webinar. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.